Today's topic is: what's your dirty little secret that you've been keeping for a long time and you can share anonymously now? Once upon a time the company I worked for gave me a $500 gift credit card. It's kept allowing me to purchase items with it even once it was over its $500 limit. I ended up spending $8,000 on it before I cut it up. Nothing else ever came of it. I didn't cheat on my ex, I just let her believe it so she would get out of my life quicker and take her scummy circle of friends with her. I had just been promoted to assistant manager at my old job. A little while later the store manager and I receive a bonus due to our store exceeding its targets, but none of the other staff did. I convinced him that it was because of the other staff that we even received the bonus and that we should each take some of it to give to them. So we pooled together some of our bonus and bought store gift cards for them to make it look like it came from the company. It was the first time any of them received anything for their hard work and they were so happy when we gave them out. They each got little thank you cards too. Not really a dirty secret, but we did it every year from that point on. We never told them that it was from us and I'm proud of it. Also, that company treated their employees like shit. Fuck that place. When I was a kid my parents had to work late and couldn't pick me up from school. I would have to walk about an hour and a half to get home. I didn't like taking the bus. Because it was so far I would try to hang out at any of my friends' house that would let me while I waited for my parents. Anyways, one day I was passing by a friend's house while walking home and I thought I'd call them to see if I could come hang out. No answer. I knew where they hid their spare key and for some reason I still can't explain, I let myself in. I walked around shouting their name and no one was home. After about 30 seconds, I realized I just broke into my friend's house. I quickly left and put the key back. I haven't told anyone. Worst part is, my friend is Russian. With a scary Russian dad with a lot of guns. I'm thankful no one was home. So I used to have a really close friend and we have a whole friend group together. We ended up at the same workplace as well. We dated for around 4 weeks and he broke up with me. We hadn't told any of our friends so now I have to sit next to him every day at work and on the weekends during hangouts pretending nothing happened. It's excruciating and I want to jump off a roof. In 7th grade, I wrote love letters to myself and pretended I had a secret admirer. The class went crazy trying to figure out who it was. Even the teachers got invested. I once accidentally broke an expensive microscope in my school. One day I went into the science lab after class because I forgot a notebook in there and the door was strangely open. Because I was in a hurry, I tripped over the power cable of a disconnected microscope and it fell to the floor. I picked it up and left it on the table as if nothing had happened. Nobody noticed. The next day there was a witch hunt all over the school to determine who went into the science lab after class and broke the microscope, because it was a very expensive, recently purchased one. Nobody ever suspected that it was me because I was a shy child and well behaved. Back in school and journalism class that we had to read 2 poems to the class from 2 different authors. I read one actual poem from Frost, but the second poem was one of mine that I claimed was Ferlinghetti's. I got an A and it encouraged me to pursue my own writing. I used to be a manager at an art store chain that stayed open during COVID, and every time corporate fucked us over I'd let the closing shift employees steal something, nothing big, stuff like nice markers or fake plants or whatever. I was the one tasked to work with loss prevention every week so I already knew what the theft budget was and what merchandise was safe to take. It so drastically improved morale and their work level that I ended up getting promoted twice in that year. I then quit on a high note and moved to a different country. Fun fact, one employee stole a pack of Pokemon cards that ended up having a $500 card in it. I think she used the money for college books. I regret nothing. I pretended to be pregnant for 2 weeks in high school just to see if my boyfriend would stick around. He did, and we're actually married now. He still doesn't know, and I carry this guilt every day. Not a dirty secret at all, but when I was in high school, it was getting close to Christmas, and one of my best friends at the time was venting to our friend group about preparing herself for yet another miserable Christmas. She lived with her single mom who struggled with gambling, amongst other things. Thinking about her being sad on Christmas shattered my heart, so I wanted to do something for her. But I didn't want her to know that I had anything to do with it. I didn't want to upset her with the idea that I viewed her as a charity case or something. So my mom and I spent the next few days going around buying presents that I knew she would love. We wrapped them up and had a whole garbage bag full of them. Then we had one of my mom's friends at the time deliver the gifts to her on Christmas morning. She was so happy telling me all about it, and I did my best to play along and act surprised. I'm not sure if she knew it was me or figured it out at any point in the 14 years since then, but she's never asked me about it, and I haven't spoken a word about it to anyone. Nobody knows who started the small fire in the office toaster oven, which resulted in it being thrown out and never replaced. It wasn't me, but I know who it was. And I ain't a snitch. I left a toxic job and told the responsible party on my way out, make sure you don't keep paying me via direct deposit. You'll never guess what transpired. $6,000 later they noticed and sent me a letter asking me to return the funds. I discussed this with the accounting person at my new job. She said ignore them till the new year and this issue will go away. It did. My wife is blind. I have been writing her little love letters and notes as long as we've lived together. I'm careful not to press the pen in hard enough to leave anything indented. She'll never know, but I have to write it down sometimes so I can tell her while we're not together. I had a secret 2-year relationship with one of my staff members. I wanted to get married, she didn't. The ensuing breakup destroyed me and made work difficult. I had to quit in order to not slip further into depression. She immediately started dating again, is married with a kid. I still love her and I wish I didn't. My grandmother has this diamond necklace that when I was born she decided to give to me when I was an adult. She was not a wealthy woman, it was a small diamond on a chain. I have so many memories of sitting on her lap and playing with it. She gave it to me as a 17th birthday present. I didn't feel old enough, but she was engaged at 17, so figured I was an adult. It stayed at my parents' house when I was in college, but when I was an adult I took it and kept it in a jewelry box. When moving when I was 29 I realized it was lost. At some point the jewelry box got knocked over and it must have fallen to the ground and been swept away and thrown out. I tore the house apart. It was gone. I feel so horrible. I've never admitted it to my mother. My grandmother passed a year or so before this happened. I so wish I could go back in time and keep it safe. I pretend I want to use technology items, headphones, consoles, but then I say actually you can have the newer ones as I'm not fussed as long as it does what I need, haha. So my other half will buy the new ones and give me his old one. I'm not big on technology but he is, and he loves updating all his technology, but he never spoils himself. He would rather spoil others, but nope, that man needs a treat everyone once in a while. Once my landlord told me her daughter would begin to pick up rent instead of her. She was an old lady. Her daughter, a meth head, only showed up twice, and for 5 months after that she never came back. I held on to the rent dollar in case my landlady showed up. I never called letting her know she had not picked up rent. That's not my responsibility. I had it in an envelope for when she did come. Finally the daughter came asking for all the dollar, clearly on something, and I called my landlady telling her that I was tired of dealing with her daughter and didn't want to deal anymore, and that I could send her the money directly moving forward. She agreed and I held on to $10,000 because my landlady assumed that the daughter had been taking the money. Not a dirty little secret. Back in my college days, I used to commute by bus every day. The journey itself was fine, except for one thing, the constant honking. Like most drivers, ours had a habit of leaning on the horn for no good reason, and it drove me crazy. This went on relentlessly for a year or two. Eventually, I'd had enough. I decided it was time for a little payback, nothing serious, just a bit of harmless revenge. I called up a friend and asked him to come with me, without explaining what I had in mind. He agreed, unaware of what he was getting into. We walked up to the parked bus, and without hesitation, I reached underneath and ripped out all the wires connected to the horn. My friend stood frozen, completely shocked by what I'd just done. His face was a mix of fear and disbelief. It was hilarious. We quietly walked away and went back to our classes like nothing had happened. After that day, the silence from the bus was glorious. No honking, no headache. For at least a few months, peace finally returned to the ride. I technically shouldn't have been allowed to graduate high school. I was in a self-paced class that was required for graduation and I wasn't doing a great job managing my time in. It was my last day of school my senior year and I went in to finish the several chapters and dozens unit tests I skipped over and my binder full of my work was gone. None of which I had turned in, even for the work I did do. I told the teacher that someone stole my binder and she asked if I had finished the work and I lied and said yes, so she gave me the pass. It's been over 20 years and I still think about it and feel bad about lying. I wasn't a great student in high school, but when I eventually went to college I was much better and maintained close to a 4.0, I think my lowest GPA was a 3.4 or 5, and never did anything like that again. I think that mostly was just because I grew up more. But there is a little bit of the fact that I don't like feeling guilty, so I do my best to work with integrity and accountability.